Welcome to Strange Darkness Radio, where the veil between worlds grows thin and the mysteries of the beyond await. As the moon casts its eerie glow and the night's embrace draws near, join hosts Bobby, Washington and Marlee Grounds as they delve into the chilling realms of the paranormal. In the shadows, a shimmering light beckons, leading us into the unknown where senses falter and reality blurs. Amidst the darkness, a spectral figure emerges, her voice a haunting melody, guiding us through the twisted corridors of the supernatural. The toll of the mission bell resonates through the air, a foreboding reminder of the journey ahead. Will it be heaven or hell as we step into the unknown depths? With each flicker of candlelight, sinister shadows dance, revealing the secrets hidden within. Whispers echo down the corridor, tales of the forgotten and the unseen, drawing us deeper into the abyss. So gather close, dear listeners, as we embark on another spine-chilling voyage into the unexplained. Welcome to the Hotel California of the paranormal, where once you check in, you may never check out. Prepare yourselves for Strange Darkness Radio's bonus episode, where the journey into the nightmarish unknown has begun on this dark highway. Let's begin.
Welcome to another bonus episode of Strange Darkness Radio. I'm your host, Bobby Washington, along with
Marlee Grounds.
Yes, Marlee. Thanks for joining me on tonight's episode. What is going on? It seems like it's been a minute. What's happening? What's been going on with you? How are things?
Not much. It's good. Just, doing our summer thing.
Yes, always. Yep. Yes.
Yep.
It's been a crazy summer for me anyways, just with all the show stuff and all the guests that we've had on the main show and everything. So it's good to sit back and have a chiller style episode instead of doing interview, which I love doing interviews, but
can get taxing a little bit.
Exactly, for sure. But speaking of interviews, we do have someone very special. It's not at all an interview. It's more of a welcome back, just a celebration of this particular person because she is so amazing. She's been on the main show. She's been on probably even the semi-bonus episode. But yeah, her name is Rothy. And I know you guys remember Rothy, the numerologist. We're going to actually get right into it. We'll see what happens because I think it's going to be a very, very fun episode. So here we go.
Tonight on Strange Darkness Radio, get ready for a mind-bending episode as we welcome back the unbelievable numerologist herself, Rothy, to Strange Darkness Radio. Known for her captivating numerology sessions, Rothy returns with a thrilling announcement. She'll be unveiling her new podcast, Singularity, the show about dating in the Matrix during the apocalypse. In addition to discussing her new show, Rothy will take us on a journey back to her roots. She'll share her personal origin story, revealing the childhood incident that sparked her lifelong fascination with the paranormal. This transformative experience set her on a path to explore the unknown realms of numerology and spirituality, ultimately leading her to become the expert we know today. Please welcome Rothy to Strange Darkness Radio bonus episode with your host Bobby Washington and Marlee Grounds.
Well, Rothy, welcome back to Strange Darkness
Radio. Welcome, Rothy.
Thank you so much. It's so good to be back. I love your show, and yeah, I definitely. I'm just always amazed at the intros. They're just phenomenal. So I'm just always taken aback by that. But thank you so much for having me on. Again, Bobby, it's always a pleasure. You know.
For sure.
And nice to meet you, Marlee.
Nice to meet you, Rothy.
Yeah. So we'll have some fun tonight. Definitely got some good things to talk about. I think everything has kind of This week and lately in the ether, in the cosmos, I think a lot of people have been feeling some things happening, some big things happening.
Yes.
And so we definitely have some crazy energy going on. Speaking of that, and there are no coincidences. Wednesday, my little spirit animal cat here is just batting stuff around at the bottom. So that's just very kind of indicative of the energies right now for everybody. It's like you're trying to focus on something and so much else is kind of going on.
Yes.
And that has been a lot of the energy right now. So apropos, but yeah, lots of really cool and intriguing stuff going on right now. So
Definitely. So Rothy, since we've last talked to you, how are things been and what have you been up to? I mean, because you had so many different things going on, and because you're can't say the jack of all trades, the woman of all trades, and all all
The woman
things,
of all numbers.
yeah, paranormal or sensitive. So what's been up? And let's also, I want you to get into your new podcast and what it's about, and that whole apocalyptic type situation you were talking about.
Yeah, for sure. So, as you have been a big part of my mentorship creatively and technically. And so, you've kind of delved in and taken a peek at a few of the projects that I was working on. I know through various different types of confirmation, as well as my own passion and abilities, that this is something that I'm supposed to share with the world. My message of awakening, essentially, out of the matrix, aka the simulation, and knowing how to do that through spiritual means, because we are quantum beings. You know what I mean? So it's the blending, it's the understanding through numerology, which is the fundamental truth behind everything in life, because everything and everyone is energy, and every single type of energy is quantified through numbers. Frequency is quantified through numbers. Therefore, everything and everyone is numbers, which is basically the binary coding to our simulation, right?
Yes.
And there's a whole big rabbit hole of topics, relevant topics, everything from DNA, pineal gland, things like DMT, spirituality, sensitivities, clairvoyance, et cetera, all of these spiritual things and metaphysical things that I think a lot of people are really waking up to in the past few years. I think that it's a rarity anymore to come across anybody who's like, yeah, no, I believe the news, and I believe that the charades going on in front of us are actually happening, and these people mean us good. So it's a big part of trying to help humanity wake up to who we are, who we were created to be, and how we were created to be. And there's a whole big story of how that comes together, again, through the metaphysical and the spiritual and things like numerology. So I wanted to put that into a very humorous and welcoming format. You know me, I'm funny. I like to be inappropriate sometimes.
Yes.
My spiritual people would be like, her Aries is in Mercury, and any astrologist will know what that means. And that means I say my stuff, right? I'm unfiltered. So I wanted to be able to kind of bring forth these more taboo type truths that people are awakening to, these days, and put it in a context that was palatable for the masses. And just trying to find, I think that every podcaster it comes up against this challenge, and really just trying to find the niche, right? Your specific niche. And then working in such a very unique field, of teaching spirituality and numerology and things like this. It's really hard. You really got to kind of carve out your own niche. And as we know, there's not a lot of people like me in the podcasting arena. So it really has been a process of trying to forge my own path and allow it to be big enough that the masses can follow, so to speak. So we've gone through a couple of different podcast, changes, and I do have Right, exactly. Evolutions. I do still have the Naughty Numerology podcast. I think that that's going to stay what it is.
Yes.
And essentially, we really focus on numerology, and I have people on, and I do their charts. We even talk about a lot of times compatibility numerology. I will have couples on. Just all sorts of people from different walks of life who are interested in finding out their binary coding and how they were coded to be, and so on and so forth. The work that I've done over the past 5+ years.
Yeah.
So that will stay the same, but I also wanted to. There were certain things that came into confirmation. Several talks with you, of course, as you may recall, but just being able to bring this again to a much bigger platform, for myself, and allowing it to be more palatable to the masses.
Yeah.
I also know through one of my more, I guess, controversial Instagrams and social media accounts that people tend to love, because I'm super sarcastic and I'm very cynical when it comes to dating. I happen to be a 46-year-old single woman, never married, no kids, college educated, 2 cats. Like, I'm that unicorn.
She's giving her stats, people.
Right. That seems to be just kind of like, there's more and more, people like me out there these days.
Yeah.
And so a lot of us have gone through a spiritual awakening, and this is just an opportunity for people to look in and peer into my world as I go through dating in the matrix during the apocalypse. And that's what the show is about. It's called Singularity. And it is, a hilarious yet cerebral look at my awakening, as well as my dating life in the matrix through the apocalypse. So I think it's going to be incredibly interesting. I know that my social media audiences love when I do like the BS in my DMs videos that I do. So
I love that.
So it's a way to be able to talk about also other conversations that have changed even in recent years for the dating masses, such as, it's not necessarily about, what degrees did you get? It's more of like, hey, do you know, how are you on the 2A? How are you at growing food? How are you, that sort of a thing. Like, there's different types of conversations now that happen for more awakened people. And so this gives a platform to those conversations, and almost kind of, like a safe space to facilitate those conversations that I think a lot of people are more intimidated to have. Because of, of course, the PC factor out there, as well as there's just so many unknowns in the world, so crazy now, that I think we need to talk about it. I think we need to be open with it. And
I find that extremely interesting, because I remember, and even currently, I'm going to say, what are your medical benefits, and what's your credit score, stuff like that. So asking people, can they do food prep? Do you have like, a stockade of particular items, or just in case all hell hits the roof or whatever else. So yeah, I do find that interesting. And Marlee, you can speak to some of this a little bit, even though you're not a prepper. But what's really going on?
Oh, in the world out there with people,
pretty rough. Pretty rough. So yeah, I think that's going to be amazing, especially the idea that you gave to me as far as just how you're going to set that up, and being able to try to even match make, whether it's for yourself, whether it's for different couples, whether, it's through numerology, and just all kind of different aspects that you can actually, utilize that skill that you have. So I think that is an incredible idea.
Thank you. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And yeah, my ultimate hope with it is that it's not just people looking at me, which I'm sure will in and of itself be so entertaining.
Yeah, for sure.
That in and of itself is going to be so.
And the funny thing about it, we can tell them, we can like, guys, okay, when you slide into her DMs, you may be outed. You may this stuff may come out, but they don't care. They're still going to do what they do.
No shame.
So yeah, exactly. So that's the funny thing about it. But yeah, hey, you might slide in the DMs, and she might hook you up with somebody who you never
That's
thought
the
that
thing,
you would
like
meet. So.
ultimately I want to grow it to something to where it's like singularity, maybe even in the future have singularity events in different cities where singles that are, maybe have interacted within groups. We can even have like online, signal dating groups or what have you.
Yeah.
Just to facilitate and kind of have a gathering place for the like minds like me, which are becoming more prevalent. I know, I'm that kind of weirdo friend that people have, but there's more and more weirdo friends like me out there now.
100%.
And so, yeah. And so finding your weirdo and the dating pool that is the cesspool that is the dating pool today, it's kind of like, I think it's a good idea to maybe really kind of filter out those of us who are really kind of looking for more awakened, soul-minded, quantum-minded, spiritual-minded people. So,
and even like, Coast to Coast Radio, I know they have like a dating app that puts people together who are in the, paranormal UFO realm, just that whole, whether it's sometimes it's not even about dating. It's just about finding a like-minded
right.
person, and even of the opposite sex, just to talk to and hang out with, go to the movies with, as far as you're into sci-fi or paranormal movies and all that good stuff. And, you make lifelong friends, if not relationships. So it's just added benefits, to all of that. But so are you going to incorporate the dick of the day into Singularity? Or how is that? Marlee doesn't even know about that. You might want to explain what I just said before she turns red.
So the Daily Dick is the Daily Did You Know? And yes, we will be incorporating that. It is our new segment. So again, we're going to be dealing with and discussing a lot of the topics of the day. Such things as, UFO sightings, or this cryptid was seen, or, this spiritual happening, whatever the case may be, or even political, presidential, what's going on with the election. Again, everything that's happening and existing and taking place within our matrix affects us.
Yes.
And we also affect it. And so it is all about having those conversations and really helping people to get a better grasp of where we're at with that, and allowing them to connect with one another, right? Now, the Daily Dick part of it, this is the Daily Did You Know? It's basically our news segment where we're going to be talking about, the news of the day, basically where we're getting screwed. So yes, it is.
I never heard you put those two together, but wow.
I love it.
Like one of the most apropos double entendres ever in history. So yeah, of course we got to include the Daily Dick.
Yeah, awesome. That's amazing. So yeah, so definitely look for this new podcast that's coming out, and again, you can slide into her DMs and possibly make the show, and possibly, make a love connection. You never know. It's all possible. So definitely. Well, I want to also, again, I know we're not done with the subject because we'll still pepper you guys with, this information and what's going on. But also, let's talk a little bit about Rothy's origin story. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. And I'll do my best to keep it as concise as possible. It's a big story. I have a big fish life, just like my dad did. And some pretty unbelievable things happened in my childhood that were the catalyst of my fascination, and, head first swan dive into the paranormal, probably as a teen initially. But starting out, I'm from El Paso, Texas. Anybody who's familiar with El Paso and the desert in general understands that the desert is really a magical place. It's very highly charged energetically. I mean, anywhere from, the desert of Texas to Arizona, New Mexico, we're very familiar with a lot of the things, Skinwalker Ranch type things, the UFO happenings out there, the Native American stuff. It is highly charged out there, right? Not to mention the fact, and this does play into my actual personal experience, but El Paso is also, it's a border town. There is a lot of, and has always been since I've been alive, a lot of really bad things that can happen, in the border area. This was years ago. I mean, as a teenager, I remember going over the border at 15 to go to Tequila Derby and, in Juarez to go drink, because in Mexico, you only have to be 18. I've always looked older for my age, when I was younger, and now it's switched, thankfully. But but when I was younger, I'd be up in there with my sister, my friends. We'd sneak over to Juarez and go get drunk, with the high school guys. And so there were a lot of things that happened even back then, and this was over 20 years ago. Wow. So it's gotten so much crazier, in the years since, but even back then it was pretty wild. Also, for those who may be kind of fans of, serial killers, you may be familiar with Richard Ramirez, who is an El Paso native as well.
Oh, did not know that.
Yeah. Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, was an El Paso native. He lived there for many years before moving to LA to do his notorious serial killing, right, as the Night Stalker. So what's really crazy about this is my father and my uncle, I call him my uncle. He's not uncle by blood, but he was one of my dad's best friends growing up, and me and their kids. Is like my cousins. They're my best friends. At my dad's funeral, I stayed at their house versus my actual blood family, not for any reason other than, they've been my family too forever. So, but my uncle and my father knew and ran in circles with Richard Ramirez when I was a child. Wow. So, and I didn't know this. Yeah, I didn't know this until years later. I happened to do we'll just call it a hospital stint. There were some things going on with me and my stepsister, my stepmom, and I was put into a center, basically, for troubled youths, even though I wasn't a troubled youth, but that's what happened. But during this 2-week stay, I happened to be in with this young man my age, about 15 at the time, and we'll just call him Cody. I don't want to say his real name.
For sure.
I'm sure people can look it up, but I'm just going to call him Cody out of respect. So basically, Cody, they have like the parent family day when your family comes in and they counsel with you, what have you. My dad and my stepmom came in that day, and my dad happened to know Cody. And I asked afterwards, how do you know him? Well, that was Richard Ramirez's son that I was in there with. And
wow, I didn't even know he had a son.
Right.
I didn't either.
Right. So my dad was more friends with his ex-wife, and my uncle was more friends with Richard. Right. So years later, 2021, my father passes away. And so I'm speaking to my cousin and my aunt about the situation that I'm about to tell you, okay, with the whole experience, and how I thought it happened, which was one day Richard must have been there, because it was just a short amount of time that these happenings took place in my house as a child, and it was during that time. So I, for a while, attributed it to the fact that I think that my dad, and one of his band days, and he was into drugs and stuff back then, brought Richard Ramirez to my house. So I know he was there a couple of times. So my memory is vague with this. And again, this is me piecing things together over the years. But that's what I thought initially it was that introduction of that person into our house. Because at the time, we learned years later, at the time, these were the same years that he was doing the satanic rituals at the Concordia Cemetery in El Paso, which is notorious now. You can go on tours and they talk about him and how he would go to this one tree and do his rituals there. So these were those years that he was doing that before he moved to LA and began his actual murder spree. So what had happened, essentially, is I want to say I was about 9 or 10 years old. Okay, so old enough to know better, between imagination, make believe, and other things, right?
Yeah.
My mother and I lived at this house by ourselves, right? My parents were divorced for many years at this time. My dad lived on the west side of town, and it was just me and my mom. And so, because we lived in a big 3-bedroom house, I would just sleep in her bed. There's no reason for me to sleep all the way across you know what I mean, the house. So I would just sleep in her bed. And her bedroom was the furthest room from the front of the house. Now, I remember, if you've ever seen the movie Friday, or you're probably familiar with this, being as you're in California, Bobby, but like the homes that have like the iron bars on the windows and the doors, the front doors, right?
Yep.
And on the front door, that screen is a hard mesh screen. It's like a cheese grater screen.
Exactly.
It's not like the Florida patio screens where you could cut through it with a box cutter or something, right? It's like literally hard.
Yes.
And on those doors, I think they're all the same. Basically, you've got your lock at the bottom on the handle, then you've got your deadbolt lock, and then you've got the lock that is a deadbolt that you can only open with a key from the inside and the outside. So you literally have to have your key to get in and out of the house with that deadbolt on those doors. Okay. I know this as a child because it's like, what? That's so specific and random. But I remember this as a child because I had to do fire drills. We had keys hanging by the windows just in case we had to get out, all of these things, right?
I did that too in California.
Okay. So, good. Validation. So basically, we lived in this house for probably 10 years at the time. Nothing had ever happened. And all of a sudden, one night, I'm literally just talking to my mom about this 2 days ago. We've had, I want to say, 2 or 3 conversations about these experiences in our lifetime, just because it's just we've only talked about it a few times, but this was a full clarification. I was like, Mom, what do you remember about this? Because I wanted to know how much of this was my imagination. It was so profound that still to this day, it's what catapulted me into my fascination with the paranormal. So essentially what happened through my experiences, I'll talk about my experience with it, and then I'll go through the details of what she said. There were 2 nights that this happened. The first night evidently dealt with the cats. We had 2 cats. One of them was in the house at the time. The other one was on the sill of the window outside of the bedroom window. And it was either full moon or a light post or something, but you could see the silhouette of the cat. And essentially, my mom said that she was experiencing voices in her head. I didn't hear the voices this night. This is Wednesday. Sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't hear the voices this night, but I did know something was going on. I think I awakened when she was praying. And what she told me was that she heard voices and they were coming at her. And so she put her head under the covers. And she said what she saw under the covers, and this is the first time I've heard this, and I didn't experience this, but she said she saw little flecks of light fading out, almost like a sparkler under the covers, and the voices were coming from these lights.
Oh, wow.
Now, this is interesting because I had an experience with these things later on in life, but I did not see that night. The only thing I experienced that night was the cat. And what happened with the cat was she was praying with our Christian friend who was a pastor, and rebuking out the demons, right? And so as she's doing this, all of a sudden I just hear when a really bad cat fight happens, it sounds vicious. It's really wild and screams. And it was that times 1,000 guttural, horrible, terrifying screams in this cat. And then it just went into a very low guttural grrr. And I'm seeing her freak out in the silhouette, on the windowsill. And as it went into the growl, she jumped down, and she was missing for 2.5 months after that. When she came back, she was very skinny. And
oh man.
yeah,
So
beat up.
she did not want to come back around that area. She was,
Right.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And I mean, very similar to kind of like that story in the Bible about pigs. I think what happened was obviously my mom was, praying and casting out demons, and they went into the cat, and that's what happened. So at least that's what it seems like, and what we tend to believe.
Yeah.
So then the second night, speaking of cats, she's all over my thing right now. The second
I know
night,
she was in the back, and I thought it was a shadow figure, but I was like, okay, that's the cat.
Yeah, no, she wants attention, so she's knocking papers off my table and everything. She's such a little brat. But so the second night, and I don't know how many nights this was in between. It could have been a couple of nights. I remember it being just a few nights. It could have been a few months. I was not able to get this time definition, but I do know that both of these experiences happened towards the end of our stay there, and we moved when I was 11. So
okay.
between 9 and 11, okay, so about a 2-year range. It could have happened between a couple of days to in between 2 years.
Yeah.
But I think it was a few days from my best recollection. And the second happening was the one that really, really impacted me, because that's what I heard them myself. And the second night, what happened was, in the middle of the night, I hear the front door, the wooden front door, the one that's inside the iron screen door, slam in the middle of the night. And we had just gotten the bars a few weeks before, and we had just done the fire drills. So I have this clear understanding that you have to have a key to get in and out of my house, from both the doors as well as the windows, and that nobody has those keys but me and my mom. Not even my dad had them.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking, what in the entire hell could be slamming my front door? And then I hear the most evil chorus of laughter I've ever heard, and it was like, ha 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 ha, we're here.
Oh,
that's what I heard. And it was, again, my voice does nothing to begin to express what it was like, but it was like a legion of evil voices that said that. And then I hear my mom in my ear say, I'll give you $1 to go check and make sure the front door's locked.
Yeah.
And for years, I thought my mom was sending me up front to protect us. And I was mad at her for that. And then through these conversations that we had, she was like, Sarah, I didn't say that at all to you. She's like, I heard the back door slam. She said, and that was the night that the voices were coming at me. She literally heard them. It wasn't in her head. The voices were coming at her. And I believe that they were holding her down, because she said it was like when I said no, that it stopped, right? Now, here's where it gets really crazy. And I didn't know this until, the other day when we spoke about it. But, I asked her to explain to me. I was like, okay, what happened after that? Because my recollection was we went through the window.
Yeah.
Why the entire hell would we go to the front door where the noise came from? Her recollection, and this is incredible, her recollection was that we went to the front door.
Oh.
Well, I remember going out the window, jumping out the window, and my mom used to sleep in a half slip. That's it. So she's out front. We're out front. I do recall that. We're out front in the middle of the night, and she's in her half slip. And I remember this truck of guys drove by, and they were like catcalling her and stuff. But
of course.
So that really tripped me out, that we had such different memories of how we got outside the house.
Wow.
Yeah. And then that following weekend, we had our pastor friend come into town and do a blessing on the house. And nothing ever happened after that. Nothing ever happened after that. So it was literally these two experiences that were incredibly terrifying, and it's not like I could chalk that up to my childhood imagination.
Yeah, for sure.
My mom went through it with me, and yeah. So it's like growing up in the church, you're taught that ghosts don't exist. You're
Yeah.
taught that things like, spiritual, paranormal, and all of that is like evil. And yeah, there's a lot of evil in it, but we exist within a spiritual world. Everything is energy. What's another word for energy? Spirit.
Yeah,
So
that's exactly what I was going to say. Everything, if you're talking to some spirit, you're really talking to a demon when it comes to the church, is what they believe.
exactly. And so, and people like myself who may have natural abilities or psychics or tarot readers, even people who do natural medicine, tinctures, salves, poultices, have always been deemed witches,
Exactly.
throughout
Yeah.
history. Meanwhile, they were natural healers and people who understood the earth, energy workers. And so a big part of my work now is helping to kind of marry a lot of scripture biblically, with the fact of, yeah, no, we definitely live in a simulation, and we don't battle against flesh and blood, but like the Bible says, principalities and things of that nature. Now, I am not, even though I still have my faith belief,
Yes.
I am not a fan of religion at all. Like, let me just make that clear. I don't go to church. I don't believe in church in that way of like the building funds and 501c3. That is like, that to me is no, that's
You don't want to
complete
buy any
opposite.
pastors, any jets or anything like that, or any.
No, I'm not with those. Like, I'm not with that stuff. So but it's taken a lot of many years of researching. I still believe in Jesus.
Yeah.
This is interesting. Angie, you know who I'm talking about. She said something the other day when we had a consult. She was like, it's not a matter. She says, when anybody asks me if I believe in Jesus, it's not that I believe in Jesus, because we never want to look outside of us for our salvation.
Yeah.
Because when Jesus taught, I'm within you. You know what I mean? So God's source is within us.
Yeah.
And so she says, it's not that I believe in Jesus, I believe Jesus and his teachings. And so that's an incredible perspective if you think about it, because so much of the history that I've researched and come across in my awakening has dealt with things like the Gnostic Gospels, the Red Sea Scrolls, the stuff that was deemed heresy by people like Athanasius in 367 AD. And these were the statement and the religious leaders of the time. So they were hiding something from us.
Oh, for sure.
And so a lot of what my work is trying to marry history, like actual archaeological history facts that we have found, with the teachings of Jesus, and others in the Bible, and kind of marry that to a fuller understanding of who we are as both physical beings as well as spiritual beings, without the religious perspective and the legalism that clouds everything up.
Yeah.
Because if it comes from a fear-based perspective, if it's a fear-based thing, it's not of God, or it's not of our higher self, or it's not of the universe, or whatever you want to call your higher power. It's not of that if it's coming from fear and warning and all of that, right? So, there is a lot of negative things that happen spiritually. Obviously, again, we wrestle not against flesh and blood. There's a lot of true things in the Bible. There's a lot of parables and things like that, stories that we can take forward as good lessons, whether they were just a story that was made up or whether they actually happened or not.
Exactly.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, no,
So,
definitely.
So yeah, that's a lot of what my work is trying to do, is to help bridge the gap between those who have been religious, which religio in the Greek Latin origination means to become enslaved to the law, legalism, traditionalism. It's all about you do what's right according to what you have been told, versus what Jesus said, which was to seek and you shall find.
Exactly.
Versus things like you will do greater works than even I. Jesus was a mystic. He was a man who, for many, many years, they don't have this in the Bible, but he went to learn he went to Asia, he went to India, he went to all these places.
Went to Egypt, yeah.
Exactly. And he learned with a lot of these spiritual people the different practices and ways that that we were all created to be able to manifest the miracles that he did and then some. And so I believe that people like myself and others who have kind of gone through spiritual awakenings are maybe among the called, so to speak. I believe, once again, everything and everyone is energy. So certain people like myself have a frequency, and we're trying to change the frequency of the world and humanity to raise us up, help us ascend, because we are so much greater of beings than what they have allowed us to believe.
Oh yeah, for sure. Maybe for whatever reason, your pineal gland is not shrunken like most people. And because I think that has a lot to do with it, as far as the abilities that psychics have and mediums have. Definitely. Well, let's take a brief break, and we'll get back to it. And also, Rothy, we'll see how you feel about doing maybe a little numerology on Marlee.
Okay.
I find that might be, a very intriguing
for sure
segment to mess around with. All right, we'll be right back.
To become a part of Strange Darkness Radio, don't hesitate to contact us via email at strangedarknessradio@gmail.com or through our hotline at 916-741-3032. Share your story within a 3-minute message window. If your narrative requires more time, feel free to call again until your tale is fully told. We'll seamlessly compile it. Anticipation builds as we look forward to your engaging emails and calls. Stay tuned to discover our upcoming show emailer or caller. Now let's see who we have on tonight's show.
We have Rothy. Rothy, what do you go by? You have so many different different Instagrams and the podcast. So what are your, go ahead and give all your socials and all that good stuff out there to the
Sure. Yeah. I'm on Instagram, of course, with Naughty Numerology Podcast, and as well as TikTok. And I think I'm just going to keep the Facebook. I'm going to turn my old Rothy Reads numbers into the Singularity, because I don't want to have too many social media pages. Yeah. But I also will have a Singularity podcast on Instagram and TikTok as well. So definitely check those out. And yeah, if anybody's interested, on the Naughty Numerology Podcast, we actually do readings for people, like I'm going to be doing for Marlee. And then for Singularity, I mean, who knows? Like, I think sky's the limit with the opportunities and options and possibilities with segments we can do with that.
I think the Naughty ties into the Singularity, so it's going to be very interesting.
For sure. Really awesome. Well, so yeah, I'm excited about it all. So reach out to me.
Do you have an email? Can they hit you up via email, or is it just better to go through Messenger on Facebook, or what do you suggest?
Yeah, they can. naughtynumerology@gmail.com, and also singularitypod at gmail.com. And Singularity is not spelled singularity. It's single, SINGLE, and then LARITY, Larity. So awesome. Singularitypod at gmail.com.
Cool. And we will have that in our show description for you guys to find and either click on or highlight it, and send her a message. And again, maybe you could take the Pepsi challenge and see where Pepsi challenge, see what life brings you. But yeah. All right, let's get into, see if we can get into a little bit of Marlee, since she's been quiet in the backdrop. Okay. Bring out of her comfort zone a little bit.
Okay, so I've actually started doing a little bit of her calculations here. All right, so give me a few minutes. I got to do the calculations real quick, and then we will definitely go through your chart. Okay.
Okay.
Nice.
All right, y'all talk
So-
amongst yourselves, and I'll be right back.
Yeah, for sure. So Marlee, what do you
So, Bobby.
think? What do you think is going to happen from this reading? Do you think
I don't know.
she's going to tell you something very interesting or what you want to hear, or she's going to discover something that you may not even know about yourself?
I don't know.
Have you ever had a reading before?
I haven't had a reading. I've done some of my own, like numerology, just like the base numbers stuff, but nothing, no official things, anything.
Okay.
So I'm curious to see what she says.
Yeah. So when you were doing it yourself, were you just looking up like, okay, you add these numbers, you do this?
Yeah. After this podcast, actually, that I listened to.
Oh, were you listening to Rothy by chance? Is that what sparked you to?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
No, yeah. I went back and, when I got involved with the show, I started going back and listening to all the episodes, and I listened to Rothy's, and I did my numbers.
Yes.
So
just FYI, do you hear that, Carolyn and Amy? She listened to all the episodes, so make sure you guys are listening to yourselves and improving on what is being said and what is out there. But yeah, no, just joking with them. But,
shout out to them.
Yeah, for sure. But this is gonna be fun. You do have things that you want to know about yourself, because again, hopefully we're going to do something also on the bonus episode that's never been done. Is where, at least I'm trying to, anyways, to get Marlee to be regressed during an actual episode. And I think it would be very interesting. And this is actually going to come with video and audio. So if we can pull it off, I think it will be a treat for her and for the audience, but more so for her. And you, again, audience, you may or may not hear this. It just depends on what comes out. So, so yeah, if it's too crazy or too racy or too something, you may not hear it. But yeah, we shall see. But hopefully we can actually get that done, because I think it would be very interesting and beneficial, because I do believe that we've all been here multiple times, and we're just trying to figure things out. And, So yeah. Do you ever have any past life, whether it's dreams, whether it's intuition, or you're sitting alone and because
I do have things. That's why when we do the regression, I'm curious if those line up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like I haven't brought them out, like said anything about them, but I'm curious if what I have a feeling for, if that lines up.
Oh, okay, nice. Yeah,
so we'll see.
Yeah, that will be very interesting. Rothy, let us know when you're ready.
I'm ready.
Okay. Alrighty.
Okay, so really interesting numbers. I will say that much. Okay, let's talk about the basics. Just really quickly, I'm sure you're probably a little familiar with it, but just to kind of review for the audience. So in personal numerology, kind of like your astrology, you have 5 different numbers in your chart. And the first 2 are your life path and birth date. Those are derived from the actual date of your birth. And then you have your expression, your personality, and your heart's desire numbers. And those are actually calculated based upon the spelling of your name, okay, from the letters. And your life path and birth date, probably 2 of the most prevalent numbers. Your life path is your destination. That's your purpose. That's the reason that you're here. So as far as in a timeline perspective, it is more so the destination energy versus the birthday number, which is your journey energy, your everyday energy, right? So our life path number, a lot of us, most of us are going to grow more into the attributes of that number as we go along in life, versus our birthday number, which is going to be the attributes that we are from the moment we were born until we die, and those never change, and they go in to support that ultimate destination energy, right? And so with that being said, we also have your expression, personality, and heart's desire. I'll go into those when I talk about them. Your entire chart can be any of your placements can be one of only 12 digits, right? You have your cardinals 1 through 9, and then you've got the masters 11, 22, and 33. And each one of these 12 digits comes with certain energies and attributes, right? Powers or what have you. And this is kind of how we are coded to be. It is the binary coding of our life's experience, as well as our gifts, our talents, our choices, so on and so forth, our traumas. So a lot of that is absolutely coded into who we are through both our astrology as well as our numerology. Okay, so with that being said, let's start out with the birthday number. Normally I start out with the life path, but I want to start out with the birthday number and you'll understand why. We are birthday 1. So you're born on the 28th. 2 plus 8 is 10. 1 plus 0 is 1. So you are a birthday 1. I too am a birthday 1. So very familiar. And everything I'm saying about you, I'm saying about me. Okay. So what is the 1? The 1 is the father. The 1 is the first of the 3 leaders among the cardinals. It is the protector. Right? The 1 is also very innovative. It's very creative. It's the one and only, one of a kind, very special. I like to call us wonderful weirdos. Bobby can tell you, like, I'm a weirdo and I'm super proud of it, right? Like, I embrace my authenticity as I don't care if I look crazy. I don't care if I look weird. I don't care. Like, I'm going to say my stuff and I'm going to teach some people. Like, we live in a crazy world. Get used to it, you know? So that is the mindset of the 1. The 1 is also, it's got a bit of that, like, Jerry Maguire, like, I don't care. Y'all can come with me. It's 10:11 right now. Y'all can come with me if you want. I'm not going to freak out, blah, blah, blah. But the 1s are not afraid to blaze their own paths and do their own thing. And a lot of times they can be loners. But a lot of times that leadership is really inspirational to others. And so without trying, they become leaders just naturally, right? And just being who they are and blazing their own paths, right? But a lot of very masculine attributes about the 1. Even as a female, like, I'm very feminine and all of that, but I'm tall. I also have a very strong personality. And I've been a leader in pretty much all my professional career. I always get into management. It's just naturally, that's where I gravitate to. So that is a lot of the attributes of the 1, right? But also look at the shape of the numbers as I talk about them. So you got the 1's very, like, strong, rigid, hard, stuck in the mud, and that a lot of times is what 1s can be like. We can be very intolerant of certain things, very stubborn, Taurian type energy. It's like, it's my way or the highway, and so, but these attributes, even though it may sound like, oh, well, stop being like that. No, 1s, that's a big part of how and why 1s are leaders, because they can be the ones to stick to the script, right? So you're talking about the leaders among the cardinals. You've got 3 leaders among the cardinals. I group the cardinals. We're going to put aside the masters right now. We're going to talk about the 3 groups. First, you have the leaders, the 1, the 4, and the 7. And if you look at the shape of those numbers, once again, you're going to notice that those are the only 3 numbers out of 1 through 9 that have no curves or rounds to them whatsoever. And this is because they are the more rigid type personalities, intolerant, very structured, my way or the highway, organized, and helping to structure and direct others. And this is because these are the leaders, right? And then you have the lovers. You have the 2, the 6, and the 9. Those are the lovers. And those have a lot more nurturing, loving energies. And we'll talk about those numbers as we go. And then you have what I call the legends. And the legends are the 3, the 5, and the 8. These are the most resilient numbers. These are sometimes the most powerful, and you've got the 3. That's the creative child. That's the genius in a lot of ways. Very divinely gifted, the old soul that you can tell somebody has been in somebody else's body before, and I know it, like that sort of super ethereal energy about somebody, and that just divine gift, creative gift. That's the 3. And then you've got the 5. That's atomic energy, mass appeal, beauty, change, just, excitement. And then you've got the 8, which is power, money, and karma, and so many other things. So those are kind of like how I categorize the cardinals, right? And so, and again, look at the shapes of everything as I talk about them. So we have the 1 for your birthday. So naturally a very dominant type personality and masculine attributes, even though we are very obviously a feminine, but a lot of those, kind of the one and only, very different, very unique, kind of stuck in the mud, can be stubborn in some ways. And that is just your natural everyday energies. Now, going into your life path. Your life path 11. Hence why I wanted to do this backwards, right? So the life path 11, you're a master 11, master intuitive. So many. Now, you don't have to have an 11 in your chart. I have 0 11 in my chart whatsoever, but I have abilities. So you don't have to have it, but a lot of high 11s, a lot of times will be medium, psychic, sensitive, clairs of some sort. They just have a natural ability. Look at the shape, once again, of the numbers, right? You have that duplicated 1 energy. So we're amplifying all the attributes of the 1 that I just described, right? And then that's bringing that to the divinely connected master intuitive, right? We've got 2 lines right here that are either going directly up or directly down. And it's based upon the choices that we make as individuals, whether we're going to choose the light or choose the shadow, because every number comes with both. We all have free will in life. So just because you have these attributes doesn't mean you're going to be more like one or the other. It's based upon your choices, right? But there are certain things that obviously you're just going to have naturally as a certain number, and especially as a life path 11. What this is a lot of it is your intuitive abilities. You've always had them, but they'll continue to open up, and they've gotten stronger as you've grown, as you've matured, and they'll continue to go that way. You can't help it. You're a life path 11. You can't change your birthday. Can't be born again on another day. That's never going to change unless you die and come back as another person. You know what I mean? So, but with that being said, also, even though we're not deducing it any further, as it is a master, 1 + 1 at the end of the day still equals 2. So what is the 2? The 2 is one of the lovers. The 2 is the mother, the nurture, the Venus, the lover energy. So 11s, a lot of times, even though we have that amplified hard master or hard, masculine energy of the 1, duplicated in that 11, we're still also bringing in a lot of that loving, nurturing Venus energy. A lot of 11s that I know also love to do things like cook, or they will interpret, they nurture, they have a natural like mothering about them. They'll be the type to, a lot of times 11s and 22s will have people at their house. A lot of times they'll be feeding people or have host parties, host events, get-togethers. And if they do so, they're not generally going to skimp on, they're not going to buy generic food. They're going to get the like pricier stuff. They're going to get shrimp. They're going to get, nicer stuff because they want to give the best that they can. Food a lot of times is a love language to 2s and to 11s, okay? It just is. It's just common through pretty much everyone that I come across. They either like to barbecue, they like to bake, or they like to cook, or they like to eat. They'll, they interpret it, but it's love, right? And the 2 is love. So, so that's your life path number. Now, let's go to the opposite end of the spectrum, because we talked about the 1 being, the leader, the first leader. That's the alpha, right? And the opposite end of the spectrum is the omega, the 9, right? And so that's your expression number. This is where it gets really interesting with your chart, because you've got completely opposing energies there. This isn't necessarily a bad thing. In fact, a lot of times it's a good thing, and I'll explain why. For instance, the 9. The 9 is, that is the healer. It's also the closer, as again, it's the omega. Look at the shape of it, closing in that circle, right? Closing up that cycle. The 9 is a closer. So as an expression 9, expression number is how and why we do things based upon, of course, our charts, but experience, environmental factors, influences, so on and so forth. So the 9, is basically somebody who is very open. I also call the nines shapeshifters because they're comprised of every other number in the cardinals. Therefore, they have an ability to transmute their energy a lot more easily into other numbers and vice versa, which means they're just a lot more relatable. Nines are a lot less judgmental most times, and they are the type of people that understand that hurt people hurt people. So instead of judging that crazy a-hole that everybody else hates, they're going to be like, something happened to him and there's a reason that he's like that. Let me go try to be his friend and see what I can do to help him out, because I understand, blah, blah, The big thing with nines is because they are such sponges energetically and conduits, they're all encompassing. So the nines want everybody to win. They want to include everybody, right? They want to bring everybody along. And nines are notorious for giving too much of themselves and not enough to themselves. Well, I always tell nines that what you have to do, you have to focus on putting your oxygen mask on first and taking care of yourself first, because just like in the plane, if you run out of oxygen, you can't help any of the rest of us. So learn how to clear your energy. You cannot save everybody. Stop trying. Save who you can. It doesn't mean that you can't. Nines are the healers. They make the world go round. You do amazing things. But you can't overextend yourself. Because it's so easy for you to do that. It's the natural tendency for you. And so you want to kind of reel that in and really force yourself to be kind of selfish sometimes. With nines, it's just, you only have one nine in your chart, but it is in a pretty prevalent place at the expression. So it's how you operate, right? It's your MO. Yeah. And that can be dangerous if you have no protection, just to be straight up with you, especially for nines, because they're such empath, they're such conduits. So learn how to protect your energy, learn how to clear your energy, and don't think that you have to save everybody, because you don't. Be more picky with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I feel all of that, honestly. I've had literally that conversation this week. So I'm sure it's not a coincidence.
Right. It's a confirmation, if anything. Yep. You know what I mean? So just kind of revisit that conversation and the topic points, and what, if there are ideas or plans, steps that you want to take to really kind of change that or start, evolving those attributes and funneling them and channeling them. It doesn't mean that you can't have them. It's just a matter of channeling them better to where you are putting out less and you're being supplemented more. Mm-hmm. You're being filled in, you're being poured into, and not pouring out as much. Yep. Right? And you're careful of what's being poured into you, because you understand that alchemizes through your quantum metaphysical body, right? It's where the spirit can affect the physical, and that that can affect us as human beings, as physical human beings. It can manifest. Energy, bad energy, and nines can manifest in us all, but especially in nines, can manifest into physical things. So you want to be very careful about the energy that you take in. You want to take in less energy as far as, you want to take in more energy rather, but good energy, and you want to put out less energy. It doesn't mean you can't help. It doesn't mean you can't be amazing and save people, but take care of yourself first. You know what I mean? Type thing. Okay.
Does it surprise you that I work in healthcare?
Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. So, okay. Yeah. And that I sigh, because it's one thing to have to say no to your friends who may rely on you to be that. And I deal with this sometimes too. Of course, being a spiritual person, I'm everybody's mentor. I'm all my friends' mentors. Meanwhile, be straight up with you. Half the time I want to break down and I want to talk to somebody, it's hard being an energy worker in some ways. You got to be kind of your own guide sometimes. But I can relate with where you're at with that, because it's a lot easier to say no to your friends, even if you care about them, than it is to maybe somebody who is alone and possibly passing away, or may need just like, oh my God, my heart goes, it's 111 right now as I say that. Like, that has got to be an amazing career for a 9. But at the same time, I don't envy having to say no. I'm just going to say that as bluntly as it came out, is like, I don't envy you, and the fact of learning how to say no. I don't know how I would do that. And Bobby can tell you, I can cut people with my tongue, like I don't have a problem saying my stuff. And that, even to me, the thought of that is really daunting. So, I will say this. You are protected. You do have a natural protection around you, meaning a natural wall around you. Not only your birthday one, it's that hard wall and its protection. You've got the duplicated 11. Also, your personality or perception number is the 1. So those attributes that I talked to you about of your 1, that's how people see you. That's how people perceive you. So it really is how you are. A lot of us will have a personality or perception number that may not be how we really are, but yours is one of the few that it's like, yeah, no, that's basically like what you see is what you get. In other words, with you, it's no fluff. There's no fluff around. It's what you see is what you get. You're not trying to be something or somebody that you're not. It is what it is. And so in that regard, there is protection, and there's a little bit of grounding that you can kind of steady yourself within when you have to maybe have those more difficult conversations with maybe some of your patients, or when you're needing to reserve some of your energy, even though they're all calling at you. And just my heart goes out to health workers, because it's an industry that is lacking. There's so many more that are needed. I know that much. Very similar to the veterinary field that I work in. There's not enough nurses. There's not enough CNAs. There's not enough, RNs and stuff. So I get it. I get it. And that's got to be, especially coming from an empathic perspective, because when I'm around people who are in pain or who are suffering or who are sad, I channel it. I channel it big time. So and 9s have, about 9 and 11. I mean, you are an open, you're like a copper wire. How easily it goes through you.
Yep.
So, let's talk a little bit about your heart's desire number. Okay, so this is where it gets cool. And Bobby can tell you, when I talk about this number, it's like, I always just have to laugh. It's the 8, the crazy 8, right? I'm going to call it crazy 8. Now, the 8 is one of the legends. It's the most powerful number of the cardinals 1 through 9. It is power, money, karma, risk, resilience, alchemy, magic, manifestation. It's ego, it's pride, it's passion. It's also trauma, and it's also resilience. It's the most resilient number. Once again, look at the shapes of the numbers. Go from the leaders, the 1, the 4, and the 7, looking at those shapes, and then go to the 2, go to the 3, the 5, and the 8. You're going to see big booty bottoms at all 3 of those numbers. And that's because they are the most resilient numbers. If you were to drop any of them, they're going to bounce, right? Bounce back higher than the other ones. But that 8, that infinity, which you put in, you get out of it. That double ball 8 is going to bounce back quicker and higher than anybody else. And that's because it's the most resilient number. I call it the ultimate phoenix. So with unwise risk, an 8 is oftentimes going to crash and burn headfirst into the ground. But they are the most resilient number. It's almost like magic. Their bounce back game is stupid. So like literally they could go from just being down and out completely to higher than they've been ever before in such a short amount of time. and it almost seems like magic or great luck. A lot of times, 8 luck, good luck or bad luck with the 8 is huge. Everybody thinks the 7 or the 13. The 8 is such a luck orientated number. And, you know, 8 is coming up, Lionsgate, in a few days. And Lionsgate last year was huge. I actually did a prediction video on the 1st of August last year and predicted a major Black Swan event on 8/8 last year. And that's when we had Maui, 8/8 through 8/11.
Yes. I remember you guys talking about that.
So yeah, it is also, it's a number that's used often in the occult, such as Lionsgate. Lionsgate is one of the new things. My personal belief is that it was created. It's a portal, a time portal that was created in 2012 when we went through the whole Mayan end of calendar thing. Also CERN, I think CERN is somehow involved with that, but you won't find any history of Lionsgate within astrology prior to 2012. So they opened this portal starting in 2012. And on the 8/8 portal, you're always going to have occultic things happening from the elites. They're making their moves. They're doing big things on these dates, whether we see it or not, right? But 8/8 is going forward, especially in an 8 year. 2024 is it's an 8 year. So we have the triplication of the 8s this year on August 8th. So just a little bit more about the 8 in general. It's such a powerful number. It's such an impactful number. And as a heart's desire, what this tells me is that, yeah, you do want money. There is a money factor. And then I'm pulling this empathically, like this, intuitively, this is what I'm reading into you. Generally, if I'm just talking in general, somebody with an 8 heart's desire either wants to get karma or they want money or power. It seems like a very selfish type thing. The 9 and the 11 and this completely changes this chart. And the fact that this 8 right here, yeah, it's good. You do want to get ahead. You do want to have influence, because 8 is also influence. There's something about this that you want influence. You want to be influential to somebody. And you want to bring a lot of weight with that, right? But more than that is that alchemization of karma and trauma, because 8 is karma and trauma. So what this is telling me is your entire chart together with that heart's desire 8 is somebody who wants to utilize their authority, their spiritual authority, because there is spiritual authority with that life path 11, their healing abilities, their leadership, their understanding of how to go about things even sometimes on their own, but work through love to alchemize karma and trauma for healing. That's your chart.
That's a lot of that sounds like it all fits. Really, it does.
From what I know, it's hilarious how Rothy does this, because in getting to know Marlee was telling me about her kids and everything, which are beautiful, and she was sending me photos of a party that she put together for her daughter, and it was amazing. And she had like all these sandwiches that were cut out in stars and just different things, yeah. And it's just it was just from what I know, it's just a lot lined up. So I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, it's so funny to me, especially talking about 11s, and that's one of the things that it's like when I say it to them, they all kind of look at me like it's such a weird, random, specific thing. But 11s always, 11s and 2s always love to nurture with food, and when they do it, they want to do it in a big way, in a special way.
Yeah, which was awesome.
It's like incredible, So, but yeah, that's why I'm saying, and when it's so prevalent with so many people that you talk to, it's like, this is more than me just like kind of tuning into them. This is a code. This is a code.
Yeah.
This is a code.
The one thing I didn't hear though is any love life situation or how that, I don't know even if you get into that. Like, do you do that, Rothy? How does that work?
So what I'm learning more so about this is I can do an intuitive reading and really just kind of go in, get my crystals and my Palo Santo and just kind of tune into Marlee if she wanted to take time to do that.
Yeah.
But with numerology, I'm almost kind of like reading the coding for the most part.
Yeah.
Your astrology chart, and this is where I'm going to give a shameless plug to my girl, Angela Kirkham. If anybody wants to check her out on Facebook, she's freaking incredible. I'm learning more about my astrology chart because of it, but that is where it's going to tell you the more of the when, the who, and the how that you're going to meet your person if that's what's meant for you, right? That is more specific to that. What I would do with numerology is if she was like maybe seeing somebody and then I could look at their numbers and be like, this is kind of not compatible. This is compatible. Like if you put a 5 and an 8 together, it's not going to work. I'm just going to tell you straight up. Like every 5-8 couple I've come across, it doesn't end up working.
What's the birthday for that?
Well, I'm just saying,
or is it actually, it's accumulation because it's their name, it's the numbers for that. So so you'd have to do the thing to find out what what's those numbers. What's
the like counterpart to an 11 then? That works well.
That's a great question. So some good numbers would be any of the leaders, the 1, the 4, and the 7, because there's going to be a lot of those similar attributes of like the structure and the process and the planning, strategy type stuff, organization and leadership. So there's going to be a lot of those natural attributes that are commonly shared, but also the 2, because there is that duplication of that 1 does bring in some 2 energy. I would also say, I mean, any of the masters could really go together. 1 is kind of one of those numbers that, and this is probably something that you're going to relate with. Do you meet people and either they like really like you or they just don't like you at all? It's like either it could just be my weird. It could be my specific weird. But the 1 can be kind of polarizing like that, right? It's strong within me. But I think that with the 1 and the 11, there's hardness to it, is what I'm trying to say. So there's going to be some like contrast with people, right? In any of the numbers that you have. If you look at the 8, I could take a look at all of those numbers next to the 11. You want to talk about 8-11? Let's take a look at Kanye West. That's an 11 life path, 8 birthday. So yeah,
and
right.
You too could be walking around in spandex and
right and masks and stuff, right? And but we see that like crazy 8. That's because that's the amplified 8, right? But then you take a look at people like Kyrie Irving, who's an 11-5. Kyrie is so he's from the Dallas Mavericks. I don't know if y'all are basketball people. Like, okay. So like Kyrie Irving, we've seen what he's gone through in his career, the challenges that he's had, how they kind of demonized him for like doing his own thing. Kyrie is all about love. Of course, I've done his chart and I'm obsessed with Kyrie Irving, by the way. But if you look at that 11-5, that's atomic amplified energy, mass appeal, beauty, magnetism, versus, if you look at Kanye and Kyrie and a little bit of their careers and you compare it, they've both kind of had similar controversies. If you want to talk about some of the things they mentioned online and certain sects of people that got upset with them for saying certain things and et cetera, they kind of have those similar things, right? But look at how they react to things, right? Look at how they move in life. Kyrie is far more graceful. He is he's going to stand his ground. He's gonna stand on that truth. You're not gonna move him because he knows that he's divinely connected. He knows that he's chosen, right?
Yeah.
So he's not gonna move, right? But he's gonna do it with grace and he's gonna do it with magnetism, mass appeal, and love. Whereas Kanye is gonna crazy 8 on you.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so a little bit of whatever number that you have is going to be an amplification, right? There is going to be amplification of you into that partner. So I don't want to say that there's any specific number. Yeah, the ones and the twos, first thing that comes to me, those are, and of course the leadership, but you've got a whole chart of different numbers that are going to be coagulating with their whole different chart of numbers. So that's why compatibility readings, when I can take a look at both charts and really kind of break down and specify, okay, this works here versus here, this works here versus here. But I have done that with a couple of like celebrity couples, like I did Bunny XO and Jelly Roll. And when I do those type of readings, compatibility chart readings, it helps to give a better, clear understanding of how I kind of pair those numbers together and how they can work in conjunction. So, but yeah, I hope that answers that question and that wasn't too much of a ramble.
No, you definitely did. And I still think you nailed it because, you know, how I met Carolyn and Amy were through a group that were seeking paranormal things and so on and so forth. How I met Marlee is a little different in regard of I already knew Tasha, her friend, who was supposed to come on the show, but something always happened, so we weren't able to get Tasha on the main show. And I saw a picture of Marlee, and I was like, oh, Jesus, she looks intriguing, and it's just something that drew me. I was like, I know she really wants to do a podcast or talk about the paranormal and everything else. So I was like bugging her for the most part. And but yeah, it's just something that drew me to her. And yeah. And so I get that.
What I know about you, and you know from your reading that we did, is that you've got some of those intuitive things too about you, Bobby. And I think that it's, you know, you've kind of seen into me and into some things too, you know, kind of why you're one of my mentors in a way. But yeah, I can completely see that you would notice that about her, that she'd have that kind of like intuitive, or just that energy about her and those attributes about her that she'd be open to this and good for it.
Yeah, definitely. Rothy, thank you so much for joining the show.
Thank you, Rothy.
For sure. Thank you.
People, if you want your reading done, if you want to get your numbers and go down the Rothy, rabbit hole, which is incredible, I think you definitely should hit her up, and hopefully she'll take the time out to give you one, and hopefully you'll make it worth her while also, because she is amazing at what she does. Trust me. And it was a fun show tonight. And Marlee, hopefully, you gained a little bit more insight into certain things, which, I'm pretty sure you kind of know a lot, because again, who you are and what you do, people don't really understand. Because if you knew about her 14 jobs and what her main job is and what she's done to have that main job, you'd be like, oh shit, like what's going on? Yep.
Yeah. Well, it was nice to meet you, Marlee, and thank you for letting me do your chart. And I think it's always a fun time for me to help people understand a little bit more about numerology and how it's the coding to everything that we're experiencing right now. So yeah, I'm more than happy to help others. If you want to hit me up, naughtynumerology@gmail.com, or you can follow me on social medias. And again, look out for Singularity podcast coming as well.
Awesome. And I want to come on your show too, because I'm, really interested.
That'd be fun.
Yeah. I think it'd be amazing. It'd be really fun.
Yeah, you both are invited. If you want to do it, we'll schedule you and get you in.
Nice. All righty. Well, Marlee.
All right, Bobby.
About tonight's show. Were you good? Are you?
Yeah. No,
okay, this is only the second one, so
I know. No, it's all good. It's all good. I loved it. It confirmed a lot of things, especially things that have been brewing around, and we got new moon, Mercury in retrograde, and then 8/8 it's coming up. So I think we talked about a lot of good things. So
her superpowers will be exposed.
Yep.
So watch out, people out there.
I know.
She'll be on the prowl. But again, from us, there's more to come, because we're doing some ghost haunt investigations. all the whole 9 yards. So we have a lot more coming on the bonus episodes of Strange
Maybe some
Darkness Radio.
cemetery prowling. Who knows?
Yes, exactly.
That sounds
See
so
what
fun.
really goes bump in the night. All righty. Good night. We are out.
All right. Night.
Good night, guys.
We've had a fantastic time on tonight's bonus episode of Strange Darkness Radio, and we appreciate you joining us. If you have your own strange and eerie experiences to share on our show, please reach out to us via email at strangedarknessradio@gmail.com or by calling our hotline at 916-741-3032. We're eagerly awaiting your stories. Please leave a review and subscribe. Join us at the Hotel Paranormal. Until next time.